The concept I've chosen for my trailer is a story by Zack Akers titled Blackwood. So, what is this story about? It is about a group of vacationing friends that are on a camping trip and are being stalked by a vicious group of sadists. I've chosen to present this trailer in a three-act structure, but also include a flashback at the very beginning, as it is an integral part of the story. Um, in the script, it shows a flashback to before what happened at Blackwood Peak. It involves Debbie Catfield, 20 years old, which she's covered in scratches and bruises and sits on the forest ground with her legs stuck in a bear trap. We also see the antagonist for the first time, mentioning how stupid she can be, but we do not show his face as we do not want to reveal the identity of the antagonist, as we want people to be intrigued to go see the film. As we go into Act 1, this is the equilibrium part of what is known as the once upon a time bit of a story. So this is where we see the group of friends just hanging around, packing their friends, getting excited, ready to go for the camping trip. They set off on their journey, and on page 20 of the script, we see that Amy starts to complain about the road trip being long and tiring, and another character, Danny, replies and says that you'll feel much better when you're shit-faced. So therefore, the idea of alcohol is introduced, which, like sex and drugs, is seen as sinful in the horror genre. Shows that these characters will be the ones in danger. As we go into Act 2 of the trailer, this is where the disequilibrium is introduced. Things start to go wrong at this point, and this is where the disruptions will be introduced. So things like the group of teens being stopped by the police, and the groups losing their service on their phones as they get closer and closer to Blackwood Peak. The editing of the trailer will start to pick up. The pace will start to get faster, and this is how you know that it's getting towards the most important bit of the trailer, showing the most important parts and stock scenes. And as we go into Act 3, the pacing of the editing will speed up considerably. There will be lots of stock scenes shown, such as Louis, who is the mystery character shown at the very start in the in the in the flashback. Sorry. But however, we still do not reveal his face or identity, as we want this to be a surprise. So he is reintroduced, and a shot of him sharpening his knife in the forest is shown. Um, Also, there is a shot of Amy running away and tripping up, um, being dragged into the darkness through the soil by the mystery character who's Louis again, but we do not reveal that. And then Danny is tied to a tree with his mouth tied up, covering so he can't shout anything. And this is followed by the mystery characters, a shot of his hands playing with torture weapons, getting ready to set his hands upon Danny. At this point, the fast-paced editing is ongoing with bits of the story increasing pace till it stops with all these stock scenes. Then it fades to the title it fades to the title shot, and then there's a resolution of the story is not shown, as we want to leave the audience captivated and have that, oh, what's going to happen next thought in their head. So moving along with my presentation, the next part is the mood board. In this mood board, you see that I'll show the setting, which is the forest, the gun, which we see at the very start in the flashback, where the mystery character shoots Debbie Catfield, the knife being sharpened on the sharpening blade thingy on, which is shown towards the end, while Danny is being tied to a tree, which is also shown on the mood board. We have a picture of Amy, who is running away, and then at this point she also falls over later on and gets pulled back into the darkness. Previously on in the trailer, we see the teens get pulled over by police and questioned as due to funny behaviour while driving, and their service also disappears on their phone the closer and closer they get to Blackwood Peak. Moving along, it's not letting me click. Moving along, we I spoke about the target audience, saying that my trailers mainly target at males due to the use of weapons such as shotguns and knives featured within the story. These are all phallic objects which symbolises male power. However, this does not mean that females cannot see it. There are lots of female characters within the story which are the victims, and therefore the female audience could relate to this and therefore share a fear within the film while watching it. Um, Speaking about the characters, the main characters within the storyline are mainly young adults slash teenagers, and therefore this will appeal to a similar age range. So the audience is mainly targeted at say 15 and above, um, maybe about a 25-year-old person. However, this does not mean again that people of an older age cannot watch it. It's just simply who it is targeted at. Targeted at. Okay, so moving along, we go to my influences. So one of my favourites horror films is Cabin in the Woods. Um, this is um, this is set similar in a woodland setting, and this is why I decided to go for the Blackwood story. I feel like woodland is a very low key lit um, setting and is perfect for horror trailers in general. It is where these people should not be going. If I read this out, similar woodland setting, an idea of teenagers, young adults going somewhere they shouldn't be, which therefore leads to danger and results in death, which is often what happens in horror films. And it's also been another influence of mine is the typical slasher horror stock situations. For example, repetition, as Steve Neal says, creates pleasure for the audience. So the more people recognise things, the more they'll find it pleasurable to watch. However, it is also good to have the unknown shown so that people can use their intellectual knowledge and try to figure out what's going to happen in the story. Moving along again, this is the slide talking about horror genre conventions. So the use of icons is a very good convention. For example, knives are commonly featured within the horror films as they symbolise fallacy and male power. Um, the antagonist's identity is often not shown. This allows the audience to use their intellectual pleasure, as Rick Altman talks about. It allows them to figure out and wonder what's going to happen further on in the story, and also the use of stock situations, which are the most important parts of the film being shown in the trailer, um, making people want to watch it. And then moving along again to the final bit of my presentation is the certificate. So the age restriction I would be aiming for would be about 15, due to the following situations that would occur in my trailer. So, for example, language. This film, the characters are mainly teenagers slash young adults, and we all know that people of this age do have foul language. So, to make it the most realistic trailer, it would have to feature how they would act in real life. Also, there's threat and violence due to the antagonist following and victimizing the group of vacationing friends, and also the use of drugs. So in this trailer, it already mentions that they will be drinking alcohol, as stated on page 20 in the script. That Amy complains about the road trip being long and tiring, and Danny replies, "You'll feel much better when you're shit-faced." So, the use of like drugs is introduced, which has always been seen as sinful in the horror genre. So it shows that these characters will be in danger, and the use of alcohol will mean that it will have to be a 15 minimum certificate. So that is the end of my presentation on the trailer structure idea for Blackwood by Zack Akers.